So several of these problems deal with gas mileage. And gas mileage, as you see all the time, is defined as miles per gallon, right? MPG. So the way we write that, anytime you see that per, it's telling you that you are dividing. So miles per gallon is going to be miles divided by gallon. So anytime you want to compute gas mileage, that's all you do. You do the number of miles divided by the number of gallons. All right, now, if you want to look at something different, then you can rearrange that formula. So in part A, notice the question here doesn't ask me for the gas mileage. It asks me how many gallons of gasoline. All right, that's what I'm being asked to find here. How many gallons of gasoline will he save? So all I did up here was I rewrote that formula. All right, basically, if you move some things around, do some basic algebra, the number of gallons equals the miles divided by the gas mileage. All right, so I read through the problem here. I focused in on all the important information. All right, we're looking at the tire pressure and the miles per gallon. All right, so part A says if someone drives 24,000 miles, right? So this is a number of miles. All right, when I go to plug this in, the question, right, what we're looking for is the number of gallons, and the tire pressure, we're given 2 tire pressures from 30 to 35. All right, so what I did first was I converted everything to gallons because that's what the question is asking me. All right, and I did it for both 30 and 35 PSI because that's what we want to compare. So for 30 PSI, I calculated the gallons by taking the number of miles divided by the gas mileage. All right, so let me plug that in here. The number of miles is 24,000. All right, that's the number of miles driven. And if I divide that by the gas mileage, for 30 pounds per square inch, the gas mileage is 20.8 miles per gallon. All right, so if I work this out, 24,000 divided by 20.8, it's going to give me the number of gallons. I'm going to round this to 2 decimal places as 1,153.85 gallons. Okay, that's the number of gallons for 30 pounds per square inch. So now I'm going to do the same thing for 35, right? Because that's what I want to compare it to. The mileage is the same, no change there, 24,000 miles. But for 35 PSI, the gas mileage is 21.3 miles per gallon. So using that same formula here, the number of miles divided by the gas mileage is going to give me the number of gallons. So I'm going to round this to 2 decimal places. 1,126.76 gallons would be used at 35 pounds per square inch. So I computed it for 30. I computed it for 35, all right, using my formula. And the question again, how many gallons of gasoline will he save? That means we want the difference between these two. So if I take those two values, right, the number of gallons, 1,153.85 minus 1,126.76, and compute the difference. The difference is 27.09, and that's the number of gallons that he will save by increasing his tire pressure from 30 to 35. Again, this is one of those cases, yes, you do need to know your formula, that the number of gallons is the miles divided by the gas mileage. But other than that, again, it's reading carefully and making sure you pull the correct information for your comparison. So anytime you want to do a comparison, write down the two things that you're comparing, 30 to 35, and then write down what value you need to compare, which in this case is a number of gallons. Do that for each one, compute your difference, and then you've answered the question at hand. All right. Now, the next question here just asked me to go from a number of gallons to basically a monetary amount. So it says if gasoline costs $2 per gallon, how much will he save in a year? All right. Well, he's saving 27.09 gallons. Right? If each one costs $2 per gallon, then he's saving $54.18. And don't we wish gas costs $2 per gallon right now? All right, so again, read it carefully. Make sure that you're answering the question, right? What do I need to do to get to the information that's being asked? All right, and then lastly, assume that there are about 130 million cars and that these changes are typical. How many gallons would be saved if everyone increased their tire pressure? So now we're going back to the number of gallons saved, which was 27.09. Now we're saying that's for one person, right? Someone. So all we want to do here is apply that to 130 million people. So 27.09, apply that or multiply that by 130 million. And I'm looking at, let me write this down first, then I'll go back and put my commas in. 3,521,700,000 gallons in total. So again, just careful about your wording, right? Watch what the question is asking you to make sure that you pull the correct information. And then make sure you answer the question when you get to the end. Okay, so again, anytime a question is talking about gas mileage is the number of miles divided by the gallons used, or you can rearrange it, all right, which would be the gallons used is the miles divided by the gas mileage, right? All depending on what it is you need to look at. All right, so the last one that I want to look at with you here from this first part of the 1.3 notes is this example that talks about insurance payment, deductible, all of that, right? We deal with these things on a regular basis, but that doesn't mean that they are easy to deal with. And so what we're going to do here, again, read it carefully. I'm going to kind of write down what has to happen and then use that to solve for the information at hand. All right, so with a certain medical insurance policy, the customer must first pay, so I'm just going to write this down kind of in words, $150 deductible, and then the policy covers 80%. Now remember, I'm trying to write down how much the person will have to pay. So I'm going to flip that here. If the policy covers 80%, then the person will have to pay 20%. So let me write that as a decimal of the amount after the deductible. All right. Sometimes it helps me just to kind of write it out in words first. All right. Now, the insurance claims are for 2 x-rays. All right, so the first x-ray cost $620. The second cost $910. All right, so let me go ahead first and figure the total cost, which would be $620 for the first and $910 for the second, right? Or a total cost of $1,530. All All right, so I'm just going to kind of write this off to the side. Total cost, $1,530. All right. Now, this person is going to have to pay, so I'm going to come back over here now, their $150 deductible plus 20% of the amount after the deductible is paid. So the amount after the deductible is paid, if I subtract that 150, all right, I'm looking at $1,380. That's the amount that they're going to have to pay 20% of. So basically, I'm going to take 20% of the amount after the deductible. That's $276. But then I can't forget that they're also paying the initial deductible of $150. So that means the total amount paid is $426. So the big thing to note here is you have to take the deductible out to compute the right percentage. But then if you're talking about the total amount paid, you got to add that back in at the end to get their total amount.